Okay, hello everybody, and thanks for watching. I am joined here today by Steve Clarke, who is the Head of Communications at TerraCycle and Loop Europe. So, as many of you may know, I run a company called Green Sense Events, who focus on sustainability and supporting organisations with bespoke, creative yet sustainable event solutions for their event, right through from concept through to delivery. And I decided to take on my own challenge during September and October, and with the aim to go plastic free. And through that process, well, I discovered many things, but partly I was introduced to TerraCycle, who my understanding is they recycle a lot of the hard to recycle materials. And they've got some great schemes across the country, collection boxes and things, and I'm sure Steve's going to tell you a bit more about that now. So can I just start, welcome Stephen firstly, and can I just ask you to give me a bit of an overview of sort of who TerraCycle are, what it is that you do, and what makes TerraCycle so unique compared to other recycling companies and waste management partners?
Sure. Thanks very much for having me. I'm going to run you through a presentation where I'm going to explain who we are, what we do, and a very important thing I'm going to walk through is the economics of waste, because you'll know from wherever you live in the UK, there's certain things that you can recycle from home with your council, but there's a lot of stuff that you can't, and that's where generally TerraCycle comes in. So TerraCycle is an innovative waste management company. Our mantra is to eliminate the idea of waste, which we know is a big target, but it's what we're working towards. We operate in 20 markets around the world, including 12 in Europe. The UK is our biggest market in Europe. We have over 40 free recycling programs, which I'll go into more detail in a moment. And last year we launched a new venture, which is called Loop, which hopefully you've heard of. Loop is a zero waste shopping platform. We're live in the UK, where we launched in July this year. We're also live in France and the US. And in 2021, we'll be launching it into Canada, Japan and Australia are our next markets. So again, later on in the presentation, I'll kind of give you more details of that and how you as a consumer could get involved. Waste is a monumental problem all around the world. In the last 100 years, humans and humanity have created an increase in the amount of waste we produce by 10,000%, which is a ginormous problem. 25% of that waste goes into our oceans, and importantly, only 9% of the packaging and products that we as a planet produce gets recycled. Pretty much everything that we produce after one single use goes into landfill or we burn it, which is kind of crazy when you kind of think about it. The most important thing I want to get across today is what can be recycled and what can't be, and why are things recycled or not recycled. You can pretty much, TerraCycle has discovered, recycle anything in this world. It's just a matter of making the economics work. If you look outside your house with your council, you've probably got a recycling bin or box for paper and cardboard. You've probably got one for certain rigid plastic tubs and trays, and you can probably also put aluminium cans and glass bottles and plastic bottles. You'll probably have a landfill bin, which is, if anything that doesn't fit into one of those two groups will go into, and anything that's kind of flexible will probably go in there, like a crisp packet or a biscuit wrapper or a baby food pouch, for example. Or anything that's a mixed material. So if you think of something like makeup packaging, or if you think of something like a toothpaste a toothbrush or a toothpaste tube or a pen or a contact lens, they would generally all go into your landfill bin because your council doesn't want them. Your council only accepts stuff that there's money in. So all the materials I mentioned, like paper, cardboard, aluminium cans, glass, and certain rigid, food trays that either fruit and vegetables or let's say, meat products might come in. They collect those because it costs less to collect, separate, and recycle them than what they can sell that recycled material for. All the other kind of stuff that I mentioned, and a lot of them TerraCycle offers a solution for, they don't recycle them, not because they can't be recycled, but because it doesn't make any money. It doesn't make economic sense. And so that is a really important thing. I mean, you can pretty much put whatever you like in your recycling box outside, but if your council doesn't want it and there's no value in it, it will get siphoned off and it will go into either landfill or incineration. like I said, we know as a business that you can pretty much recycle anything as long as you can make the economics work. And this is how the way TerraCycle does that is we partner with brands. So, we do stuff like cigarette butts in multiple markets around the world. We do, car seats in Canada. You've always got to have somebody though who will pay for the cost of the recycling. We even do nappies. We're running a pilot at the moment. Used nappies or diapers, depending on what you want to call them, in the Netherlands. So we've shown that you can pretty much recycle anything. It's just about making the economics work. One thing that we always say to brands that we work with is don't just say, is this material recyclable? Make sure that it can be locally recycled, because there's a big difference between a material that's recyclable, because like I said, you can pretty much recycle anything. You've got to make sure that it's a material that can and will be recycled locally. So what can you do with TerraCycle in the UK? Our website is terracycle.co.uk, and you click on free recycling programs on that page, and there's 40 different ones at the moment that you can take part in. Like I said, everything from flexible food wrappers, think crisp packets, think biscuit wrappers, think confectionery wrappers like chocolate bars or sweet wrappers, think bread bags, think contact lenses, pet food pouches, baby food pouches, makeup packaging. There's a whole host of things that you wouldn't be able to recycle any other way that you can now recycle with TerraCycle. Recently, in the last few weeks, we've launched a cheese packaging program. We've launched toy recycling program with Hasbro. We've launched trigger heads and pump caps from hand soap dispensers. And I think it was last week we did one for marigold gloves, which when you're cleaning your house, your kitchen, the traditional sort of yellow gloves, these things you can now recycle via a TerraCycle program. The way the programs work, you can either sign up on some of the programs as a free, as a private collector, where you would collect from home. You get access to our free post labels and you would post it directly to us. But on most of the programs, we run what we call the public drop-off system, where we ask people in their communities to set them up. So they could be anywhere from a supermarket to an independent shop to a community centre to a library. We've got all sorts of weird and wacky locations. I've seen art galleries be collection points. I've seen fire stations be collection points. Some people even have them on their driveways at home. So what happens then if let's say you sign up to the crisp packet program, or you sign up to the the one for oral care waste, let's say toothbrushes and toothpaste tubes, you would then appear on our map. So if somebody then comes to our website, they pop in their home address, and it will tell you where your nearest collection points are. It'll tell you the times it's open, what waste can be brought back, and it will also tell you who benefits from all the waste that's recycled. Because our programs are also what we call recycling fundraising schemes. So in general, you will earn, let's say 100 TerraCycle points, and each point is worth 1 pence for every kilogram of waste you send in. So the charity points are also funded by the brands that fund the programs to enable us to recycle. And you can donate those points to a school, a charity, or a non-profit of your choice. So far in the UK, we have raised almost £1.5 million for schools, charities, and non-profits. So, it's not only doing good for the planet, it's a great way to teach people about the importance of recycling, but it's also a very good way to raise money for good local causes. So here's kind of some examples of some collectors we have around the UK. The map here is, just shows the drop-off points on one of the programs. So there's over 8,000 of these collection points. On something like the crisp packet program, for example, there's 1,000 locations alone just on that program. So find a waste stream that you're interested in. Use a drop-off point if there's one that's already in your area, and if there's not, then could you act as an administrator yourself? So you're doing the work in terms of finding somewhere and asking them to host a collection box. You would be looking after that box and taking the waste to send it off to us, printing the labels, but you would also get the benefit of deciding where the money that's raised from your community goes to. And the reason why we like whole communities collecting together is because it means that larger and fewer shipments are then sent in, which has a lower environmental footprint for the program. So that's kind of how that works. We also fairly recently launched a new program with Maybelline. It's called the Make Up Not Make Waste recycling program. And there's now 1,000 of these collection boxes at Superdrug stores, at Boot stores, at Sainsbury's stores and Tesco stores across the country. And you literally go and drop your makeup packaging back into one of those collection points. We also work with other retailers. So, for example, you can recycle similar kinds of things in Kiehl stores. You can do the same in L'Occitane stores, and also other retailers like John Lewis and Selfridges also also have similar recycling schemes with us to recycle a whole host of different types of waste. So what have we done around the world? I mean, like I said, we're in 20 markets around the world. We've saved over 7 billion pieces of waste from going into landfill globally. In the UK, it's 145 million pieces of waste that would have either been burned or buried. And globally, we've raised 44 million pounds. $44 million for good causes. And in the UK, it translates to almost 1.5 million pounds, like I mentioned. For anything we don't have a free solution for, we also have what we call zero waste boxes. Now, these are a paid for solution. So you can buy boxes for 70 different types of waste in the UK if you wanted to recycle something. So at the moment, a box that we're selling quite a lot of is for personal protective equipment, or PPE. So you've probably seen as you walk around the streets at the moment, once people have used a single-use disposable mask, rather than take it home and dispose of it, they often decide just to throw it on the floor. So these boxes are being bought by retailers, by businesses to recycle PPE waste at the end of its life. From an event perspective, we also offer some boxes that would be very useful for events. So things like name tags and lanyards would be a good one. Office supplies, often people using pens and different materials at an event or a conference, or even things like our crisp packets, snack packaging and sweet wrapper box, or our zero separation. So you could pretty much buy one to use at a food concession at an event. So any type of packaging that is bought from that food concession, like plastic knives and forks and paper plates and those kind of things that you wouldn't be able to recycle, they could now be recycled. And the way these boxes work, when you buy them, the cost includes us posting the box to your flat pack. It's very simple for you then to put it together. It also then includes the free postage for you to send it back to us once it's full, and it includes the cost to recycle all of the waste that you send back to us. So that's quite an interesting one that I thought would be useful from an events perspective. How does TerraCycle recycle? I won't go into too much detail here because I'm going to show you a video in a second. But we basically, the process we normally use will involve in some sense, we will separate the waste. So we separate the different polymers or different types of plastic. We then shred it, we then clean it, and it will basically be extruded. So we basically turn it into very small flakes or pellets, and they can then be used by manufacturers to create a whole host of different products like outdoor furniture, fence posts, construction applications, picnic benches, storage containers, so lots of things. And the beauty of this is these manufacturers are going to be using our recycled material and giving it a second life rather than using new virgin plastic. But let me show you a little video. So that's a quick insight into what we do. So it showed the waste going to our warehouse up in Darwin, just outside Blackburn. All the waste is basically aggregated till we have enough to go off to a recycling partner. And then it showed the process that I kind of showed and some of the products that we make from it. It's a pretty simple process in reality. But the key thing is we found a way to make the economics work, which is what traditional council recycling systems haven't done for those kind of wastes. That brings me kind of nicely onto Loop, which is our new zero waste shopping platform. TerraCycle knows that recycling on its own is not enough to get us out of the problems we're in as a planet, as it were. Recycling only alleviates the problem. It doesn't deal with the root cause, which is not plastic per se, but the way we use things from a single-use perspective. So what we've done is we've taken a look back in history, and we've developed a new system, which rather than creating new products packaging each time, we build something more durable, and then we can reuse that material. So if you think about reuse, you've generally got two ways that it works. Either one, you buy something in store and you take it home to refill your own bottle, or you take your own container, or you buy a container in store and you stand in line and refill it. So what we've done at Loop is we've kind of looked at it in a slightly different way. So if you look at the old milkman system, it truly was a great system. You know, you build very durable, robust packaging, you pay a deposit on it, and then it's in the interest of the retailer, it's in the interest of the milkman or the brand to keep that packaging in circulation as long as possible. It's an asset, you know, it's something you want to keep, and it's also a very good way of, you know, for the planet, because rather than create something, use it in the short term, burn it or landfill it, you're going to reuse it and you're going to keep that system going again and again and again. So the way we do this on the Loop side of things is we change the ownership of the packaging. If you think when you buy a shampoo, let's say you buy shampoo, do you want the shampoo or do you want the bottle it comes in? I hope that you would say that you want the shampoo. And this way, rather than the consumer owning the packaging, as you do with single-use packaging in plastic, the onus goes back to the manufacturer and the brand. So, you know, they now own it. You're borrowing it, so you're going to pay a deposit on it, and then once you finish with it, you'll get your deposit back. But it just means, you know, we can use that packaging a minimum of 10 times, but anywhere up to 100 is what the aim is. And the more times we can reuse that piece of packaging, the better it is for the environment. So what do? We help brands to move from a single-use disposable supply chain to a reuse supply chain. And then we find a way to market those to consumers. So we're in the UK, France and the US, we're in what we call the standalone phase. So we've set up our own website. So in the UK, you would go to loopstore.co.uk, you would choose the products you wanted, and they would be delivered to you by our own courier service. And then once you finish with them, we'll come and collect them, hopefully when we're going to be delivering you your next order. It comes back to our warehouse. It's industrially cleaned, so it's very hygienic. It then goes to the manufacturer, they refill it, and then it goes off to the next consumer. So that's the phase we're in now, but the aim is over time for it to be integrated into the retailers. So in the UK, our retail founding partner is Tesco, and so we're working with them at the moment with a view to it going into the first stores in probably Q2 2021. So you'll then find a Loop aisle in those stores where you'll go and pick up your let's say Heinz ketchup or Coca-Cola or Danone yogurt or Eco for washing up liquid. These are all products that are live with us already on our standalone model. But the beauty is, you know, it's convenient, and this is what we're trying to do with reuse, make it as convenient for the consumer. So you don't have to stand in line, you don't have to refill it. You know, there's no problem if you go to the store and you haven't took your own containers, because it's already done. So that's the longer term goal. I won't show you that because I've kind of already just explained how the process works. But let me show you a little video. It probably brings it to life a little bit easier. So that's a quick intro to what Loop looks like. here's a selection of some of the branded products you can get available via the system soon, or there's a couple like Persil and Love Planet and Beauty. That's coming soon to the platform. So you'll see the packaging is either traditional glass, or some of it is heavy duty aluminium, or some of it is heavy duty kind of steel. Very durable, very easy to clean, and very, very long lasting. There are a couple of items in there that are kind of engineered plastics, and they're sort of more durable plastic. So for us, plastic is it's an amazing material. It's the way we've planned to use it as a one use. But the types of plastic we're going to be using here are things that are very durable and will be able to be reused many, many, many times. So far in the UK, there's about 170 different lines you can order via Loop, and that's a mixture of branded products like these, but there's also we have our own private label range as well for things like pasta, rice, herbs and spices, oils, a whole host of different things as well. And we're going to be adding more lines all the time. Recently, for example, we added Danone to the range. They've got 2 new yogurts, and they come in traditional glass. And then we also added about 2 weeks ago Ecover washing up liquid as well. So there's more products coming soon. What our main priority is to make reuse feel like disposable. We want all the convenience benefits from disposability, but we want to make it in a reuse format. So we've also recently announced a number of other exciting pilots and trials we're going to be doing. So for example, in 2021, we're going to be working with McDonald's and some of their restaurants in the UK to do reusable coffee cups. Last week, there were announcements made with Tim Hortons in Canada, which is a big sort of equivalent fast food restaurant chain there, and also with Burger King in the US as well. We also made an announcement with Ulta, which is a big beauty retailer in the US. And whilst in each market, we always start off with one retailer. So Carrefour is our retailer for France, for example. Tesco, like I mentioned, for the UK. And in the US, we have 2, where there's Kroger and Walgreens. Over time, we envisage us working with multiple retailers. We see Loop like an engine that could be embedded into multiple retailers. And the more retailers we work with, the easier it is for consumers. Because, for example, imagine going and doing your grocery shopping in Tesco, and then later that week you're going to be going to a McDonald's restaurant, and you finish some of your packaging already. You could drop your empty grocery containers back off to the McDonald's and get your deposit back, and vice versa. Imagine if you're buying your coffee cup in McDonald's, but then later that week you're going to the Tesco store. You could then drop your coffee cup back to the Tesco and get your deposit back there. The more different outlets and the more convenient we make it for consumers, the better it is. So I mentioned the next step, which is to go in store with the retailers. So here's a couple of examples. This is very exciting for us. This is going on in France now. We've been embedded into the Carrefour e-commerce platform, so you can now order via the Carrefour website, and your Loop products will come via the Carrefour delivery service along with your normal products. And this is the first store which we launched last week. This is in one of the Parisian stores, and it's what we call a Loop end aisle. So you can now get 25 different products via Loop via your Carrefour store. And you see the box in the background. That is a smart bin. So when you've then finished with that packaging, you drop it back, and then you'll get your deposit back on that container. So that's kind of what's going on in France. Like I mentioned, we aim to be in Tesco stores probably Q2 next year, and we're busy working with them now to make that work. And then also we're going to be launching in some new markets next year. So this is a mock-up of what the Loop aisle in Aeon stores in Japan would look like, for example. And this is the same for what it could look like in Kroger or Walgreens in the US next year. So we want multiple different ways for consumers to be able to interact with the Loop system, and the more convenient we make it, the more we hope more consumers will kind of be willing to adopt the system. So that's kind of a quick overview of TerraCycle, who we are, what we do, and also the new Loop platform, which we hope you'll have all seen, and we hope many of you have tried it.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. I think you've pretty much answered everything I was going to ask you, so that's really good. I think my main question would just be around for brands. So you mentioned that with the different kind of waste streams that you've got set up with brands, and they're the ones that kind of invest in these schemes.
Yeah.
What's the advantage for these brands? Obviously, I'm guessing it's, you know, partly reputation for them, but is there, you know, in terms of them investing, is there a monetary, you know, is there any monetary gain for those brands, or
Yeah,
not?
I mean, the way the programs work, you know, if we want brands to work with us for a prolonged period of time, they need to get return on investment, and there's a variety of ways that they can get that. So by partnering with us and having a recycling solution, they can then put the TerraCycle logo on their packaging, and they can talk about, you know, they're the ones that have made this possible for consumers. They often will be able to do things in retail locations and get what we call incremental space. So because it's a sustainability initiative, you know, you'll get more space within the store than you perhaps would have otherwise, because you're doing something kind of good. So there's a variety of different ways, you know, for brands to do it. Many of the brands that we work with, and a lot of brands out there, are working towards the Plastics Pact 2025 and 2030 targets to make your packaging locally either recyclable, biodegradable, or compostable. And so many brands are working with us while they're also working on that kind of stage at the same time. But I mean, ever since, I would say, Blue Planet 2 in the UK, and good old Sir David Attenborough, there's been a real shift in you know, in consumer awareness, consumer perception, and consumers wanting to make the right choices. Consumers asking, you know, their favourite brands, you know, saying, why isn't your packaging recyclable? You know, we want to recycle it, and that's worked very well for us. In fact, that, you know, it's helped us to grow quite a lot and to launch a lot of new programs. So I would say, you know, the last kind of two and a half years probably have been a real growth period for us in the UK. And it, you know, the consumer is, you know, is demanding solutions. And what we would always say is the brands that don't listen to the consumers and aren't offering the sustainable solutions they're looking for are the brands eventually that will, you know, ultimately be left behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly, is there any concern that, you know, by, I guess, tackling those items, by being able to recycle pretty much anything, that people will then look at that as a solution, but also carry on purchasing that sort of single use, you know, those single use items, and knowing that there's a solution, rather than maybe switching to, say, aluminium or glass, or, you know, I mean, just throwing it out there.
Well, we're kind of working on both fronts. I mean, we sometimes get challenged, you know, why do you have a solution for this type of waste that shouldn't be made? But I mean, that's not our decision to make. If people are buying, and you know, we're talking about products that sell vast quantities, surely it's good that there's a solution in the meantime to recycle that waste, rather than it simply goes to landfill or incineration. So I mean, everybody, all brands out there should be working towards the 2025 2030 targets of recyclability, you know, compostability or biodegradability. So, you know, in the meantime, surely it's a good thing that we're providing consumers a way to recycle these materials.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, the loop, the you know, the concept of loop, and this kind of circular economy is definitely, I think, the way forward. And just kind of, I mean, you know, quite a lot of people have seen the War on Plastics TV documentary, and the kind of huge piles of waste over in Thailand, and obviously the Life on Our Planet recent film by Attenborough. Do you think, you know, this will have an impact on the way we live? And do you know, have you got any thoughts yourself on kind of what we do about this problem? Obviously, Loop seems to be a great solution, but, you know, have you got any kind of any sort of thoughts yourself, and kind of how we move forward and what the future will look like, I suppose?
Well, I think sometimes people feel a little bit, you know, a little bit demoralised and a little bit hopeless that, you know,
Yeah.
what difference can I make on my own? I mean, if everybody makes, you know, sustainable choices, you know, if you seek out the brands that are doing the good things and buy from those brands, you know, every time you make a purchase, you're voting with your wallet. And I think that's the thing people should always remember. You know, seek out the good, you know, and the brands that are making the right choices, and that will make a big difference. And from a Loop perspective, you know, it's partly our job. It's our job to make Loop as available as possible, you know, via multiple different retailers, have as many different brands, you know, working with us, that you can do your normal shop over time, you know, via the Loop system, you know, whether you want to do it in store or if you want to do it via e-commerce. But at the same time, it's people have to, you know, want the solution. They have to trial it. The problem that there's been with reuse up until now is it's been quite sporadic in terms of there's a few smaller zero waste shops where you need to go to. They're not always easy to find, and there's not always the greatest selection of products. You probably saw last week there's a trial Asda's doing in one of their stores, and Waitrose has done a store, and we think these things are great, and the more different reuse models there are, the better. It's just the way we're looking at it is we're trying to make it as easy as possible for the consumer. If we can replicate the convenience of single-use disposability but in a reusable format that's much better for the environment, then we think that is the way we'll really get consumers to buy into it, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've definitely found that on this challenge that trying to actually find those places that you are able to take containers to and refill your containers, and because finding those options is really challenging, and it's like you say, unless you make it easy for the consumer, then they're not going to bother, kind of thing. So
no. Well, that's the thing, that's why single use has got as big as it is, because it made things very easy for the consumer, and as a result, the packaging was reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced, and that's why it's made it to a point where often materials, it doesn't make economic sense for the infrastructure across a country to recycle it. So we need to kind of change the way, and the best way to do that is to change the way we all consume. But it's very hard to do that unless you make it easy for the consumer, and that's exactly what we're aiming to do.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks very much for your time today, Steve. And it's really fascinating, really interesting, and great to see what you're doing. And I just hope more people kind of find out about you and go onto your website and kind of look at what they can do, and start using Loop Store. Absolutely, I'm going to be switching to that.
Fantastic. Well, I'd recommend people to trial it. Have a look at the like I said, there's 170 different lines at the moment. Lots of stuff that you would buy in your weekly shop anyway. And the beauty of it is once you finish with it. So let's say in your first order you order 10 different products, and then on your second order you decide you only want to order 7, and you don't want to reorder the other 3. You would get your deposit back on those 3 once you've finished with them. So it's it really is like the milkman of yesteryear. And on the TerraCycle side, I really would recommend people to go to terracycle.co.uk, have a look at the free programs we've got, find your nearest location, and if you don't have one on a particular program, I don't know, let's say it's cheese packaging, or let's say it's this new Marigold gloves program, then could you set one up and run one for your community? They're often a great way for to teach kids the importance of recycling, but at the same time to raise money for a good cause anyway. So there's lots of charities that run the collection points in the whole community, and it's it's just a real great way to teach people and to raise. So have a look.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thanks very much.